Hello everybody, it's me. Today's question is, can I make a video about the mysterious case of the missing Jamison family? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on a platform. Link will be in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background in this case, then I'll move to my theory. The facts of this case are not in dispute. In 2001, James Jamison and his wife Mary lived in a home with their 3 children in Santa Rosa, California. Their son David was 19 years old, daughter Sarah was 17 years old, and son Matthew was 14 years old. They were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The family was well liked by their neighbors. James had been a bishop of the church for 10 years. He was described as a man who never met a stranger. In addition, he was a successful real estate broker. Mary was described as a devoted mother. The couple was very involved in their church. They were very active, and they taught Sunday school classes. Both were also involved with the Boy Scouts of America. In September 2001, the family made an announcement that they would be moving to Utah because James accepted a position with his company in Murray, Utah, which was a suburb of Salt Lake City. A few weeks after making the announcement, they began packing up their belongings. Before they left, James told a friend that when he arrived in Utah, he would start looking for a new church building that could accommodate 1,500 worshipers. He thought that someday there would be 1,500 members of the church in the area. On October 8, 2001, James, Mary, and their 2 oldest children drove from California to Utah. Matthew did not go with them. He stayed with a friend named Kenneth Warren until October 13, 2001. On that day, Matthew joined his parents and siblings in Utah. Several days later, on October 16, 2001, all 4 Jamison family members were accounted for. That evening, the family attended a welcome meeting at the Murray 9th Ward building of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. At some point during the evening, they decided to drive back home because they wanted to attend a high school football game the next day in California. They said goodbye to their new friends at the church, and they headed back to their home in Santa Rosa. This was the last time any of the Jamison family members were seen alive. On October 17, 2001, the family was reported missing. On November, authorities found the family car abandoned along a highway in the middle of the desert near a small community called Crystal. The car was only a few miles away from Interstate 15, which is the main freeway in Utah. The family was nowhere to be found. 1 month after the disappearance, the FBI offered a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to the location of the Jamison family. As the investigation continued, several strange things happened. The family's house was searched, and it was clear that they had intended to leave town. All of their belongings were gone, except for some food in the refrigerator. Their car was gone. Even the garage door opener was taken out of the car before it was abandoned. Investigators found no signs of a struggle. There were no signs of foul play. They found the family's cell phones in the house. They also found a note on one of the kitchen counters. The note simply said, "We are leaving town." After the family disappeared, investigators conducted many interviews and followed many leads, but none of them panned out. On December 12, 2001, a hunter found the remains of James, Mary, and their 2 oldest children. They were buried in a shallow grave near Grantsville, Utah. An autopsy determined that they were shot to death. Matthew's remains were never found. In 2018, DNA testing was conducted, and it revealed the cause of death for the 3 murdered family members was a gunshot wound to the head. The manner of death for all 4 family members was ruled as homicide. To this day, the case remains unsolved. Now, moving to my theory, there's a lot of information in this case that does not make sense. Why would the killer or killers abandon the car so close to where it was found? It seems like they just got lazy. If the perpetrators were willing to travel hundreds of miles to dispose of the bodies, they probably would have driven further to abandon the car. It makes more sense that they drove the car into the desert to intentionally disable it. Perhaps they ripped some wires out of the car or slashed the tires. Then they left it in the middle of the desert to be found. This would explain why the car was found in the middle of the desert instead of on the side of the road. I think it was very likely that Matthew was killed in the same way as his parents and siblings. His remains have not been found. So it's possible that his body was disposed of differently than the others. The most concerning thing about this case is that these murders appear to be connected to the victim's religion. The family was targeted because they were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The killers may have targeted other members of the church based on James's comments about the church growing in the area. This brings me to my theory. I believe James and Mary knew who killed them. When they learned that their lives were going to be taken, they chose to sacrifice themselves to protect their children. They knew that their children would be taken from them. Therefore, they arranged for their children to stay with different families so they would be safe. This explains why Matthew stayed with Kenneth Warren longer than the others. It was part of the plan. Matthew was not supposed to go to Utah with the rest of the family, but something came up and he ended up joining them. Fortunately, this put him in danger. His life was taken, along with the lives of his parents and siblings. The reason the killer or killers did not take the kids from the houses where they were staying is because the Jamison family already arranged for other families to take care of their kids. And if this happened in 2018 instead of 2001, James and Mary would have told their children to run to a neighbor's house or even hide in a neighbor's house. They were good neighbors. Here's why I think James and Mary knew their attackers. In order to travel to the disposal sites, the murderers would have had to get the children away from the houses where they were staying. Somebody would have had to watch them, and these people were not willing to take the risk of being caught. They were willing to kill James and Mary, but they did not want to add kidnapping and child endangerment charges to their list of crimes. Remember, the murderers spent all of the money that belonged to the Jamison family. They cashed in the long-term care insurance policy, but they did not try to collect on the kids' life insurance policies. Even though they killed all 4 Jamison family members, they did not want to be connected to the kids. They didn't want to be connected to anything other than James and Mary. James and Mary were easy targets. They were unsuspecting. They believed in helping others. They were active in their church. It would have been easy for the murderers to pose as church leaders and ask for help from James and Mary. In my opinion, this case was not about money. The murderers were willing to leave a ton of money behind. They were not afraid to use the victim's credit cards. They didn't limit their spending. They went crazy with the victim's money. They did not want any paper trail, which is why they used the victim's credit cards. They weren't worried about the money. This case was about power, control, and hatred. The murderers felt that they had more power than the Jamison family. They felt that they could control the Jamison family. They hated the Jamison family for their religious beliefs. In conclusion, I think James and Mary knew their attackers. They saw their deaths coming. They were aware that their lives would be taken because of their religious beliefs. They sacrificed themselves to protect their children. The murders were not personal. They were targeted because of their religion. The motive was not financial, it was personal, it was emotional. The perpetrators were overcome with hate. They wanted power and control. Those are my thoughts on the case of the missing Jamison family. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.